Cha ki. Shri Sanatana Bhakta Prabhu, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhakta Dasarana, Sadgoswami Prabhu ki. Thanks to Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasani Gaura Bhaktari ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki. Angadevi ki. Radhadevi ki. Alkadevi ki. Tulsi Maharani ki. Harinam Sankirtan ki. Maipurna ki, Rajabhumi Shri Vrindavan ki, Shri Radha Gopinath ki, Itai Gaura Premanand. Glory to the Samudevotees. Glory to the Samudevotees. Oh, glory to the Samudevotees. Glory to Shri Shri Guru Guranga. Glory to Shri Prabhupada.
Everyone. Thank you all for making time and coming and making this event a big success. So I know every one of you here would know Sri Prahlad Prabhu. For anybody who doesn't know, I just want to give a small intro. So in ISKCON community we call pure devotee, we call advanced devotees. But I think there are some devotees who are like wholesome devotees because they are expert in everything. And Sri Prahlad Prabhu, from spiritual side to material side, has been a success. From being from Gurukul to now being in Sydney, and then now he's gone to the UK, the director of our undergraduate programs. So he's inspiration for everyone. And as a natural music talent, he actually, at the age of 12, got a recording contract with the recording giant EMI, and he had 2 singles and an album named Through the Eye of Child. And he also features in the book by Stephen Roses for the Kirtan of Yoga. And Prabhu got initiated from His Holiness Ilananda Goswami and mentored and traveled with Indunya Maharaj, and he's been a great inspiration for Sydney. And one of the reasons in my early days of Krishna consciousness to wake me up on Saturday and Sunday to come for Bhagavatam classes was amazing Kirtan. And another thing is like these Kirtans not only touch the heart of everybody, but it's a great way of, if you have small kids, an act as a lullaby to make them go to sleep. Because that acted as a lullaby for my kids until they're 6 months old. So, and we're happy to have him back here. And this was just the start. So we're going to have an amazing night. And I hope you all enjoy and go back to home with sweet memories. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for that kind introduction, and it is a pleasure to be back with all of you after 4.5 years. Looking across the room, seeing so many faces of people who are dear friends, and it gladdens the heart to see you again. And then some new friends as well that I haven't met before, so I'm looking forward to getting to know you, although my visit this time is very short. Hopefully it won't be, it certainly won't be as long before my next return. So thank you for coming this evening. Wednesday evening is not a regular program night here at Radha Gopinath, so I'm grateful that you have come to connect, and reconnect, and connect, and to have this opportunity to share together some Harikatha and Kirtan as well. Please forgive me for a moment. I'm just nobody's asked me to share online as well when I speak, so just setting that up.
One request of my proposal that if I can request everybody to come forward, I think more people will be coming in. Thank you very much.
It is close association. Hare Krishna. Okay, so the title for our time together is Taking Shelter of Krishna's Lotus Feet. And what I want to share with you is a brief 30-minute overview of Krishna's lotus feet. Why we take shelter? Why taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet? In our bhakti culture, then we are directed that the way to take darshan of the deity, the way to take darshan of Krishna is to start with the feet and move up from the feet. And you'll read some descriptions in the Shastra. They start with Krishna's feet, and then they move up to his legs, his waist, and belly, chest, and then his face. And so there's a nice verse, in fact, by Lord Shiva in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 24, verse 52. Padasara padma palasarochisa nakad yubhir nota agam viduvata padashraya sviyam apasta sadvayasam padam guru marga gurus tamojusam. So Lord Shiva says, my dear Lord, your 2 lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like blossoming petals of the lotus flower which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate the darkness in the heart of the conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as a spiritual master. So I'll read you the first little section or half of Prabhupada's commentary. Prabhupada says, Lord Shiva has thus described the bodily features of the Lord authoritatively. Now he wants to see the lotus feet of the Lord. When the devotee wants to see the transcendental form of the Lord, he begins his meditation with the Lord's body by first looking at the feet of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the transcendental sound form of the Lord, and the 12 cantos are divided according to the transcendental form of the Lord. The first and second cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam are called the 2 lotus feet of the Lord. And therefore, it is suggested by Lord Shiva that one should first try to see the lotus feet of the Lord. This means if one is serious about reading Srimad Bhagavatam, he must begin by seriously studying the first and second cantos. So, today we will take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet by reflecting briefly on the first and second cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. We approach with the lotus feet because, well, the feet are a foundation, right? The feet are also the lowest part of the body, and so it's out of humility that we gaze upon the Lord, first upon his feet, and then slowly we become qualified to see his face by first looking with humility upon his feet, and then gradually lifting our gaze upward. And so also with the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's lotus face is compared to correlates with the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is advised by Prabhupada over and again that before reading this most intimate face of Krishna, the 10th canto, we must approach his lotus feet with humility, and these 2 first cantos give the foundation, which then give the qualification to gradually study the other sections of the Bhagavatam, culminating with the 10th canto, which describes Krishna's most intimate activities, most intimate pastimes. So that some of you have attended my online live lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and you may be familiar with my overviews of the Bhagavatam. Even so, you will benefit from a review, because repetition is the mother of learning. And so, for those who listen to the life lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam, you may have heard my overview of the first canto and second canto. I use mnemonics to help myself and others remember the Srimad Bhagavatam. And for the first canto, the mnemonic I use is 5 places. 5 places. If you can remember these 5 places, then you might be able to remember, or you will. Let not me be so. Let me not couch my utterance. You will be able to remember the essential stories, or the essential storyline of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Some of you may not be familiar with the Bhagavatam, so let me go there very briefly first, and then we'll have our overviews of these 2 cantos, and it'll be a great summary, and it will help you to deepen your attachment and taste for Srimad Bhagavatam. For those of you who are not familiar with the Srimad Bhagavatam, maybe you're more familiar with the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a text of 700 verses, 18 chapters, and it gives a nice introduction to the philosophy of bhakti and Krishna consciousness. The Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, so much larger work, and it appears in 12 cantos, so 12 books of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is a more in-depth study of the philosophy and teachings of Bhakti Yoga, of Krishna consciousness. So that's a very brief introduction of this work. The Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, in fact, gives us, the first and second cantos give us 5 stories of the origin of the Bhagavatam. So how did the Bhagavatam come to be? The first canto gives us a few stories, how the Bhagavatam came to be spoken. But the real thing, to understand the Bhagavatam as a whole, and the first canto in particular, is a key question. And this question is asked in our first of the 5 places. That is the forest of Naimi Sharanya. You can still visit the forest of Naimi Sharanya today. It's not a popular pilgrimage place. I would say it's gaining in popularity, but I personally haven't been there. I don't know. Has anyone visited Naimi Sharanya? Actually, as I say, I haven't been there. I remember driving past it once and being told Naimi Sharanya is just nearby. So I guess I came close to visiting there. Naimi Sharanya is considered a very potent holy place, and 5,000 years ago, many sages, they gathered there at this forest. And so there's a nice metaphor, it appears in Sanskrit literature, that is the metaphor of the tree. And sages are compared to trees. And here we have sages congregating in a forest of trees, that is the forest of Naimi Sharanya. Why are sages compared to trees? Who can say?
Shelter to others.
Because they give shelter to others. Very good, thank you. Excellent. Any other thoughts on why sages might be compared to trees?
They are patient.
They're humble and patient. They tolerate the weather. They tolerate other people coming and picking things from them, and animals doing things next to them. So they're very patient and tolerant. What else? They're steady, so they're steadfast like a tree. They don't move about. Excellent. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Vilas.
They nourish others.
They nourish. So they give shelter and they give food as well. Flowers and fruits and berries and other nice things that we get from trees. Coconuts. Okay, they breathe carbon dioxide. Yeah, thank you. I haven't considered that. They purify the environment. Sages, they also do this. Very good, excellent. They purify the environment. And so this is a nice metaphor. They also provide firewood when their branches break, or humans build houses out of trees. So they provide a lot of support. And so in this way, trees are considered selfless in their service. And sages, they also live for the benefit of others. And these sages, 5,000 years ago, they assembled at Naimi Sharanya, and they were very concerned about the well-being of others. They knew that Kali Yuga was about to begin, and they were worried. And so the question they ask of one great other saint who appears in their midst, his name is Sutta Goswami, and they ask him a very important question. And this is a question for the whole Bhagavatam. It is, how can the people of Kali Yuga be delivered? How can the people of Kali Yuga achieve spiritual realization and perfection? Now that this dark age of Kali is to begin, the Iron Age of the 4 ages, that's the question, really, of the sages, and it's the question of the Bhagavatam. Because the answer that Sutta Goswami gives is the people of the age of Kali can be delivered by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It has arisen like the sun to give light in the darkness of ignorance, in a world pervaded by darkness of ignorance. And so he says it has come just after Krishna's disappearance, and then Bhagavatam made its appearance. So Krishna's reappeared. Earlier we were reading from Prabhupada how the Bhagavatam is the sound form of Krishna. And so Krishna has left this world at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, but he's come again. And he's come again as sound, that is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so the Bhagavatam is also Sankirtan. This is an important idea to understand, because we say in Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is Sankirtan. And it's where Chaitanya summarizes the Bhagavatam even more by giving us the Mahamantra to sing. But essentially, the Bhagavatam is glorifying Krishna in sound, and we hear, and we repeat, and we're purified. And then Lord Chaitanya makes it even more accessible by saying, here, have a drum, have some cymbals, and sing the Mahamantra. And so the Sankirtan becomes even more accessible through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the response of Sutta Goswami. And he then goes to, the sages ask, how was the Bhagavatam compiled? Or how was it written by Vyasa? How was it heard by Parikshit Maharaj? How was it that it was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami, who was a detached renunciant, and he spoke it to the emperor? And so Sutta Goswami answers those questions by telling first how the Bhagavatam came to be written, and for that we go to another place, and that is a mountain. The Himalayan mountains. There is a sacred place. Sevapuri and Sevadevi have been there. Badri Kashram. Badri, and it is the place of Vyasa. He has his ashram there, or he has his ashram there. He continues to reside there. And so the mountain top, when you go to the top of a mountain, you can see into the distance. You get perspective, right? And so Vyasa, he's sitting on the mountain peak at Badri, looking out over the world, and he's been concerned for the benefit of the world. He has compiled the Vedas, organized them, divided them. He's written Mahabharata, but he's still feeling incomplete, and in fact he's feeling somewhat dejected, and he doesn't know why. And so as he's reflecting on this inner discomfort that he feels, and that we wouldn't expect of a great sage of Vyasa's caliber. The sage is self-satisfied and peaceful, and yet here we have a sage who is dissatisfied, and he's not feeling at peace. And so his guru Narad Muni arrives, and he tells him that you are feeling dejected, you are feeling dissatisfied, because although you have done great work, you have not given the essence of all Vedic teaching, of all spiritual teaching, which is to give one book that focuses exclusively on bhakti. He said, you have done great work, but your work is also confusing. It's confusing because you're trying to accommodate all kinds of different people, and you're thinking to accommodate them you need to give many different sub-religions, subsystems for people who are interested in materialism but would like a spiritual way, or could be helped with a spiritual process to get at least to interest them in spirituality. Worship this demigod, worship that demigod, do this ritual. So you've given this, you've tried to be very broad, but you in fact are confusing people. That's what Narada Muni told his student Vyasa. And he said, you didn't need to do this. It was the wrong strategy. I appreciate the intention, but the strategy itself was wrong. Why? Because bhakti is accessible to anyone. Bhakti can be practiced by great renunciants, great yogis, high intellectuals, as well as by even children. We have so many nice children here. They like to do kirtan, they like to sing the deity, they like to sing loudly in the kirtan. And so Narada Muni, he said, you didn't need to create all these little systems to help and accommodate lots of people. Bhakti applies to everyone. It is relevant for all. And he backs up his claim with a story. Which story did he tell? He told his own story. Yeah, very good. His own story. In his previous life, he had been a child, and he was the child of a servant maid, not high society, but he was he was the child of a single mom, we could say. She's raising her child on her own, and she was not from high society. But what happened? In the Dharmshala, we could say the guest house or the hotel where she was working, some devotees, what happened to the sound? Some devotees came to stay, and they stayed for 4 months during the rainy season. So that is the custom. Like these sannyasis, they stay in one place during the rainy season. And these sages, they stayed in that ashram for 4 months. And Narada Muni, he was the 5-year-old boy, he served them with his mother, and he got to have their association. And just by being in their company, he developed a taste for kirtan, for hearing about Krishna, and for practicing bhakti. And when those devotees left, he felt his heart was also gone with them. And he wanted to leave with them, but he had his mom. He was the only person that she had, and she was the only person he had. And so he felt a responsibility for her. He was just 5. But he stayed there for his mom. And then sometime later, she was bitten by a snake. And this small boy was made an orphan. And so he went out to find those devotees. He searched far and wide. He walked through villages and towns and forests, and he was unable to find them. And after this long search, he decided he would just stay in one place by a lake. He took bath in a lake, and he felt purified, and he sat in that place, and he practiced bhakti as he had seen those devotees practicing. And after a short time, Krishna appeared before him and said, Narada, little boy, I'm very pleased with you. I am showing myself to you now, just so you know that I'm here. You won't see me again in this life, but know that I'm here and that I'm aware of your service. And in your next life, you will be born as the son of Brahma, and you will be a great teacher of bhakti. And Narada Muni said, that's me. That's my story. So you don't need to create complicated sub-religions. You don't need to have so many books and such. Just write one book that teaches bhakti, and it will be relevant for intellectuals, renunciants, children, common people. Everyone will benefit from it. And so Vyasadeva, he took this instruction, and as he was meditating on it, he had a vision. He saw Krishna, he saw the material nature, he saw the living entities, and he understood, okay, I have to write a book to help those living entities who are under the influence of the material nature reunite with Krishna. And that was the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's 2 stories of how the Bhagavatam came to be written. The Bhagavatam itself telling its own story. The next place we will go to is the battlefield, because we're going to learn about the hero of the Bhagavatam. His name is Parikshit. And why the battlefield? Because his father Abhimanyu was killed in the battle. His grandfather, Arjuna, was the great hero of that battle, the Battle of Kurukshetra. And his uncles were the other 4 Pandavas. And at the end of the Kurukshetra war, he was in his mother's womb, and he was the last. So the other sons of the Pandavas had been killed. His father had been killed. He was the last heir to the Pandava line, and a unchivalrous warrior fired a very powerful weapon at his mother's womb to kill the embryo. That is this baby in the womb. And his mother ran to Krishna and said, "Pahi, Pahi, Jagatpate."